Deleted session, February 10th, 1971. Rob noted, on February 1 p.m. on February 5th, my father died. The funeral was on Monday, February 8th in Tuckahook. Jane and I were, of course, with Buzz and Lauren, my mother, and various other friends and relatives in Tuckahook over the weekend. Jane's condition was not good, and I became very concerned. We returned home on Monday after a heavy snowstorm in Pennsylvania, and I did not return to work until Thursday. This session is prefaced with my notes of 2 pendulum sessions I held with myself. They said, "Good evening." Now, again, we begin slowly. I am sure you understand the reasons. Your pendulum data was indeed correct. Also the remark Ruber made just before the session. He does blame your mother for your illness of several years back, and also for his own. Rob noted, this we did not know. They said, it was at the time of your illness that he began to conceal his feelings from you, and in a sense to coddle you. His over-anxious behavior, its roots, have been given in other sessions. You follow me here? Rob said, yes. They said, he then reverted to the alternate pattern of behavior he learned early. Rob noted, in childhood. They said, as a defense mechanism, withholding his feelings from his own conscious knowledge as well as hiding them from you. If he were aware of them and did not share them, he would feel disloyal. So, if he were not to burden you with them, he also had to hide them from himself. In the past, such behavior had led to an increased frenzied activity, mildly but not inordinately erratic. Such erratic behavior, however, he now felt out of the question, and the built-up energy from the repressed feelings had nowhere to go. He clamped down upon himself, them more and more, fearing the built-up charge of repressions. He tried to use suggestion as a bandage, as I mentioned at one time. Even then, his physical system has been amazingly resilient. For some time, subjectively, he was in a highly ambiguous position. He felt he could expect no comfort from you, that he must face both your fears and his alone. Superstitiously, he felt that in hiding fears about your parents, he hid them for you both, shoved them under the psychological rock. But the rock became heavier and heavier. This began at the gallery, when your father and mother first stated that money would be needed, and very shortly after your return from Florida. Ruber was outraged that having treated you the way they had, they would so humiliate themselves as to beg for your aid, and instead decided that basically they did not feel humiliated, but were asking what they considered their just due. When you were ill and not working, part of Ruber's money went to them, and he was ashamed at resenting this, and furious at you that you would allow them to do this to him. He was sure that if the circumstances were reversed, he would never bleed you to help his parents. Now, we are dealing with his attitudes and feelings. I am leaving my comments out here. You understand? He wanted a car when you did not have one, but was furious that you got one in order to visit your parents, not to escape from them. The neighborhood squabbles there remind him of Middle Avenue. He feels as if his mother is getting your mother to do her dirty work for her. And when your mother said to him, "You are a phony," it was also his own mother for the 1000th time putting him down. He feels trapped in this apartment, that he is here because he is readily accessible to help your mother. As when he was a child, he was readily accessible to help his own mother. He has a strong, affectionate, open nature that was dealt some harm. He is fiercely protective of you, and regardless of his feelings about families, you see, had he felt that your parents dealt kindly with you, he would have gone along with them all the way. He felt that they betrayed you. Now, give us time. He felt that any success of his that was not matched by you pulled you down in your parents' eyes, and was therefore part victory and part defeat. He did fear that you would become bitter if you did not succeed. Rob noted, as a painter. Seth said, and he sometimes felt that you retreated to the studio away from him, as purposely your father retreated from your mother into the cellar or garage. He would rather have burned anything that you have rather than store it in your family's home. Symbolically, this threatened him. He mentioned it on several occasions, but you made a reasonable reply having to do with convenience, and so he brooded. Rob said, "Well, we can move the stuff." They said, "When you were quiet at times." This reminded him of your father's uncommunicative manner, and frightened him. If he reacted emotionally, this frightened him, because he was afraid you would interpret it as your mother's reaction. He is furious that he is in such poor physical condition in front of her. He thinks that you were taken in by her for years. These sound like rather harmless attitudes, or normal enough. Ross said, "They don't to me. I knew this was loaded material." They said, "It is only because they have been acknowledged so many times, and consciously repudiated, that they have done such harm. The protective layers were built up so strongly, and became such a part of the personality structure, that I could not bring them all toppling down from the inside." The symptoms built up as he clamped down on his feelings. Make sure you emphasize that the release of these will also bring about the release of joy and inspiration and energy that has been blocked through repression. Take your break. Now, since your reaction when Rebellious was published, he feared that you would grow to hate him for any success. If you did not succeed, since his success he felt was largely at your expense, you bought him the time in which to work. If he succeeded, he might lose your love. In other words, he closely watched your reaction after that. On few occasions, he found it negatively early in the game, but any criticism later of his relationship with publishers was taken to be a symbol of an anger with him because of his books, period. You would find something to be angry at. He failed, so he tried to succeed and not succeed. The answers given by your pendulum also apply to my book, and to some of our missed sessions in general. While you vigorously upheld the sessions, he still felt that to some extent again. Their success would undermine you. He was also from the beginning afraid of the time it took you away from your work to record them, and felt that you must resent this. If he thought you looked tired, or at all reproachful or worried or bothered on a session night, he would feel that you did not really want to have a session. But he would cover this up, and if you were not out there with your notebook, he took this as a sign that you really did not want a session. I meant to give you a longer break, but delivered this while I had good hold of it. Ralph said, "That's okay." Seth said, at the same time, he projected his fears upon you, thinking that you loved him only because he was a writer. Then, why were you not pleased with his success? You see? Take your break. Now, Rupert wants to get as well as he thinks he can afford to. When Rebellious was published, he felt that you were coldly angry at him. This after the series of events mentioned earlier. He has been slowing down to give you time to catch up. He fears that you would find any real success of his highly distasteful. He fears that he might go hog wild with it. There is a connection here I have not quite discovered in what I am about to say. What turned him over to you only too gladly? He is afraid that if you launch him into success, you may then leave him, wanting none of it. Clear emotional communication on your part will be most valuable here. On several occasions on your tour, there was a name confusion, and this upset him for fear you would be hurt and put down. Do you follow me? Ra said, yes. Rob noted, here Seth refers to my being called Mr. Roberts on occasion during the tour. Part of this was caused by an error on the jacket copy of the set material. I can say that this bothered me not at all. They said, it is something like a sympathetic strike. Do not take that too literally. Releasing fears will allow new inspiration and optimism to emerge. To battle against any lingering negative aspects, however, he cannot have too many assurances from you. He is so thirsty for them. The fact that you did not discuss plans together helped prolong his distorted ideas. You see, there was little counterbalance, and this is being remedied. When you did not speak of your work much, he interpreted this to mean deep worry and concern on your part about it. Often he did not feel your support. I am not saying you did not support him. Remember also that he exaggerated his fears, and felt that they would serve to drive you from him. Reading his book is a great help. He felt you did not have any deep interest in it, and that symbolically you were rejecting it. Take a break. Rob noted, I was really upset by this time in the session. There were so many things I wanted to say that I believe I ended up silent, because points got in each other's way. I did voice some thoughts that I have mentioned before, about why, in times of great stress, when it's obvious the organism is in trouble, it doesn't intuitively override wrong thinking and set itself right so that it can go on about the business of life. Seth said, now, he felt that the trappings of success might be a real threat to your working time, and therefore to your ultimate success. That you would resent this beforehand, rather than, say, discuss it and so forth. That you would resent the lack of privacy involved and blame him for it. Now, your own feelings towards success are highly ambiguous, and in the past, neither of you really discussed them. So, there was fertile ground for Ruber to exaggerate some of your ideas and feelings. The symptoms slow down all of these eventualities, convince him, and let him convince himself that it is safe for him to go ahead. Rob said, it is possible? Seth said, it is indeed. Now, many of your own attitudes have changed by now, but initially he used some of your past attitudes as a basis, not realizing that you had changed them. There was some fact then. However, he exaggerated it, but the facts have changed. Rob asked, then why hasn't he changed? Seth said, he was not aware that your attitude had changed as much as it has. Rob asked, not even telepathically? Rob noted, this is what I had been getting at. I found it hard to believe that telepathy hadn't been more of a help in at least unconscious communication. Seth said, he was not emotionally aware of this. The fear projections, replaced, telepathically attract like projections and inhibit other ones. He had turned himself toward fears, and these are what he picked up most frequently. You did not until recently make a practice of communicating feelings to each other on any consistent basis. This alone makes your changed attitudes clear. He does need encouragement now. The remark, you are doing this to yourself, is interpreted by him as an accusation. The more pliant bodily response in your intimate affairs shows that he is trusting you again, as he had not done for some time to that degree. Now, he picked up many of these reactions, again, from you when you were ill. You also inhibited your feelings, cut yourself off from Ruber, retreated, and were negatively motivated. In a manner of speaking, he is working out problems for both of you. You have learned through his behavior and saved yourself some other steps. For example, what questions do you have? Rob said, I guess I can't think. Seth said, you are on the right track. Besides the release of fears, the discussion of future plans is also important. If you have no questions, I will end the session. My prognosis is good. Rob said, at the moment, I'm very discouraged, I guess. Seth said, the fears, written down, are encouraging. You confront them and they appall you. But They are far more appalling hidden. Ra said, I know it. They said, do you have any other comments? If not questions, I bid you a fond good evening then. Ra said, good evening, Seth, and thank you very much.